You are now entering part 2 of The Whispering Willows. The story continues to unfold.
And for long he sat on a stump till he noticed the groundhole smile, as if unevenly and zigzaggedly, with fangs like Dracula's and sharp, evil eyes gleaming through them. Soon, darkening skies that almost fell like a heavy cloud upon the strange valley. So many groundholes and so many sinister, devious, evil eyes. Whoever could they be? Moaned Mr. Molly to himself, quite exasperated by the turn-tail of doozy events so quickly and suddenly, as the drape of the large blue moon surrounded the acres of the dwindling copse, like hoes and dows of Lord Tau's spectre, sights disappearing before his very own steely pair of pale blue-grey eyes. He saw the large Alice rabbit hopping wildly and running as if he were saying to himself and Mr. Molly,
"Skedaddle, Skiddy! Run for your lives! The skillet creatures of the underwood holes will fry you like a noodle in a bowl of crisp insects."
Whatever could he mean by that?
thought poor Mr. Molly, and soon taking the good advice of the madly hopping Bugs Bunny, he followed him in the direction he hopped wildly to another strange hidden destination, where poor Mr. Molly, popping himself inside one deserted hole, soon reached to a conclusion. The dark, eerie night had landed many unusual critters hiding inside abandoned holes of the underwood world, and comforted himself thinking,
Those scary eyes must have been just a clan of friendly furry gerbils or noisy mole rodents like me. Maybe a good knot of fiery vampire toads camped inside for safety, or just maybe.
He gave a shadow of a doubt, some unsettling worry.
A camp of upside-down wolf-faced bats with shiny whiskers of glass.
He shivered right to his tingling spine and remarked,
Pythons or poisonous cobras or the venomous great mamba.
Then maybe comforting himself again.
A horde of hamsters like Roulette, they played a deck of card games in underground holes and cavities, or herd of unusual guinea pigs on this day grinning evilly. Hats off to their scary hoods. This trained discourse of grunts, howls, growls, shudders, creaks, hoots, howls, roars, grumbles, groans and moans, scary confabulation in Chinese whispers.
Distorted messages being passed around in whispers, a game often played by naughty elves and fairy folk critters.
A mystery like Chinese checkers with a star of a Chinese flag, or on chessboard with 64 squares. Its chess pieces queenside and kingside amidst a great wall of China.
The barricade fortress of the imperial stony weir built across the streams of riverside, and the mammoth wind fan propellers of the dusty windmill farm that loomed somewhere nearby the bracketed picket fences. Further beyond the wild wooden thicket, he could see clearly rotating its pixels, generating current and electricity, like heads of a wind turbine windmill dahlia.
But a skulk of sly foxes.
Those he had to be careful about at least till morning crept back, and the sun shone gloriously again. Would he be able to make it home to Mr. Toadie's mansion? Till then he hoped someone would answer his prayers. Maybe his loving friends, Mr. Water Ratty and Mr. Badger. In the evening, on the other end at Mr. Toadie's house, Mr. Water Ratty emerged from one of the rooms, where he was beginning to get bored, looking after Mr. Toad and chit-chatting with him about all the rest of the days, when they would help him clean all his invaluable racing cars and motorbikes, boats, trucks and wagons. But now he wished to speak to Mr. Molly and Mr. Badger. Mr. Badger, however, was busy reading his fairy tale novels and didn't mind the company of himself. So Mr. Water Ratty started to call out,
Molly, where are you, dear old buddy? Do come out. We would have a cup of warm basil and tomato soup, stirred up by the chef beaver, Mr. Nuttall, and a good helping of tomato beans with cheddar cheese and a crusty fig pie.
Alas, there was not a sound or whimper, even a breath of his dear friend Mr. Mole. Then the chef beaver, Mr. Nuttall, informed the worried Mr. Water Ratty that Mr. Molly had packed a ration of food scraps into his haversack and told him not to tell anyone that he was gone out and would be soon back by sunset for tea. Mr. Water Ratty sensed danger. He should have been home by now. Then, girding around his waist belt and gun into its holster, he carried with him a stout cudgel, his hat from the peg, and his shiny galoshes. He set out into the terror of the wide woodside to search for his dear friend Mr. Molly, with the kindly assistance of Mr. Badger, donning his overcoat, cane and his large gumboots, cinching their belts around waists, and the stout cudgels by a hook. Dulcie Demon, home sweet home, crunching and crackling through the fallen leaves, dry and withered away, like a heap of rubble or a nest of drone bumblebees, as if it was autumn or fall, with their rubber gumboots and galoshes, through the tillowed fields and the plowed furrows. They at last arrived at the woody jungle, where they guessed their dear friend Mr. Molly had lost his way. With torchlights they entered through the living, bracken and thick green foliage in the bitter dark night, as if it breathed in and out like a green dragon. Puffs of cold shivery breeze through its sharp and tangy air. Its sodden musty mouth of the wooden cavity released, they had to find in time before he was caught, God forbids, eaten or even fell in some strange deep ravine or into a hidden pit. All thoughts raced their poor minds, Badger and Water Ratty, astutely beholding the torchlights overheads. Through the shrubs and wavering grasses, started calling out,
Mr. Molly! Mr. Molly! Come out wherever you are! It's us, your dear buddies! You will be in safe hands soon! Don't worry, Mr. Molly! Mr. Molly!
Soon they heard a whimper, right through one cotton-picking grey colossal, clouds so dark almost falling inside a deep path that bifurcated from the edge of the fork that Mr. Molly had long before time ran into from those evil-moving, menacing, bloodthirsty, blood-curdling eyes. But with the glare of the bright torchlights, they felt safe, and plucking their gimp, traced the sound of silent whimpers, as if a cry for help emitting from inside the thicket of the strange forked wooded lane. There was Mr. Molly, sitting duck in one little underground hole. They could make out his warm, toasty beanie. He had one that had checkers, just like the mystery of Chinese checkers they played so often, only now amplified the murmurs along the whispering breeze, chanter and chunners and groans and mumbles of the fairy beasts and fairies inside the wooded way, as well the runny faucet of the rippling waters of the riverside along the soda inlet bay. They, giving him a hand, brought him up to the surface and dusted all the dried mud leaves and sprockets that he used to camouflage his hiding. Even the chameleon hiding inside the hole, almost the color of brown and green, got surprised by the twosome, adventurous, chesty saviors come to save dear old Mr. Molly. Molly, ecstatic over his timely rescue, wailed joyously, hugging his friends dearly.
A friend in need is a friend indeed, my dear comrades Badger and Water Ratty. Oh, how miserable was I but now I'm filled with unending happiness. Just seeing your faces makes me feel how lucky I am to be saved from my nightmarish dream in the wild woods. I dread played a game so foul as a horrid encounter of ghosts and hidden holes filled with those devious sly eyes.
Mr. Badger patting his shoulders and making him feel at home once more, without beating around the bush, said to him,
Dulce de Mon, home sweet home, please come along, Mr. Morty, with me to my little underground hole of a tunnel. It isn't very far from here. You shall soon meet my wife, Mrs. Badger. All who are in trouble get solace over here indeed. My place is warm, cozy, spruce, and comfortable. Every once a while do creatures tar up my doorbell, and I give them a handy escort. Maybe those who lost their way or wishing for help to find the correct address winter after winter through snow and frost. Chilblains, nips, stings, and frostbites, rain, autumn, fall, or summer, maybe because of roughity of weather or in due course abandonment by cruel fate. Come to my hearty hole, welcomed by my hard-walking wifey, Mrs. Badger. You will be thrilled to be acquainted with the lovely warm apple pies, savory chicken strudels, homely beef stews with noodles and American elbow macaroni goulash. She is a darling, and wouldn't least mind a bit. Wayfarers, especially my true friends, to her splendid care.
Truly? Mr. Water Ratty commented in great awe, as he was used to the outdoors, so often sauntering through the wild woods, and had met Mrs. Badger once or twice, but never forgot her kind, queenly hospitality. Soon as they started walking, the rustling wind moaned through the trees, the aeolian sound it made by the morning, blowing and hustling through the leaves and branches sounded as if it played hauntingly music. A violin with a bow, harp with fingers, or piano with soul. Their little hearts beat aloud like drums, as they waited to be safe in Mr. Badger's cozy Dulce de Mon. Little deep hole, home haven, sweetly at home. As they crunched through dried leaves and debris, green ferns and grasses with their leathery moccasins, rubber galoshes and gumboots, making their way to the side of Whispering Willows, to a little underground hole, with the address nameplate, a bright bulb flickering over it, read,
Mr. and Mrs. Badger, the way for lost souls and to heaven. What a good signpost!
sighed Mr. Morley. However, just before they could step inside the natty and spruce little bottom hole into the deep roots of his property, Mr. Morley had a bad blind fall over one of the thick roots of the banyan tree. A big cut covered his knee, and thick red blood droplets dripped from the open wound. Mr. Water Ratty and Mr. Badger helping him on feet wiped away the streaming tears with their handkerchiefs tied one around his leg, and helped him climb through the underground hole of Mr. Badger's sweet repose, Dulce de Mon, home, sweet home. Mrs. Badger was plump and fat, as plump as a little brown and black goblin, with a black beauty spot right above her snout, and silvery white whiskers. So she looked old, as if she had aged with wisdom of a wise old witch. She invited her dear husband, Mr. Badger, and all his friends, giving a warm hug to shaken up Mr. Morley, making him comfortable on the easy chair, as if she was an infirmary nurse. Seeing poor Mr. Morley cry inconsolably in utter desperation over his blindfold, she assisted with some first aid kit, cotton bandages, and Dettol disinfectant to cover the glaring gash with a band-aid. Soon donning her bright orange apron, retired into the well-manicured kitchen to cook for her guests, whilst they adventured into the house, introspecting its many long tunnels that divided into spacious chambers, down the deep earth, so muddy, acrid, and musty, They saw how hot, hollow, and airless it was inside, though they were quite used to it, and yet how spotless and clean. After they settled down on the massive slabs of dining chairs, the dinner bell lady, none other than Mrs. Badger, mistress of the house, rattled and belled a funny mouse bell, chiming in a little fairy note couplet of the Golden Dinner Bell Fairy.
The Golden Dinner Bell Fairy. Hood, needles and nud, good wood, bud, bud, lud, lud, loon, sud, sun and sud. Stood the dinner bell golden fairy in the forest dell's heart, to ring her bells of glory, golden and gorge, river and lodge. The banquet lay on the table of grass, where elves, bunnies, pixies, goblins, gnomes and fairies drank from the glass goblets of sheer as crystal river banks so clear that flowed without a flaw through the unending gorge and valleys, rivers, mountains and lodges of the soothing landscape of marigolds, sunflowers, buttercups, hyacinths, dahlias, violet shies, primroses, daisies, hibiscus and daffodils, perfumed and sweet-smelling like vanilla pods, strawberries, blueberries, and butterscotch ice creams, and cones of raspberries, anthem lanes of chrysanthemums, Madonna lilies, lantana lollies, and peonies, Leontia ponies, derby dragonflies of the great rivers and valleys, stooges and dwarfs of Snow White's beautiful glass coffin of eternal beauty, where she slept so peacefully. Stood so white on the blanket of snow the porcelain dinner bell fairy, painted like gold and shining starry and dewy, her bones of china with first dewdrops of sunshine. She rang her bell loud and clear, that echoed through the mountain tops, cliffs and valleys. She rang her bell to last through her forest story. The smell of toasting, burning and roasting a stove on the firewood, the sound of crackling, crunching, munching and rustling by leaves on their wooden barks of the hollow fairy woods, where fairies leer through its secret nooks, jumping, hopping, leaping, skipping, tossed, swam and crawled to glorify and glory the sun, sud and stony, the leaves wood and bony, like ebony and ivory statues, all made of gold, golden and glowing, and the porcelain golden fairy of the woods. The dinner bell little lady soon sang her anthem prayer to the Lord, before everyone finished licking their plates with tongues, teeth, beaks, snouts, mouths, spoons and forks, bowing lowly, mumbling slowly, chewing and relishing to their last morsels and bits of savory glands, watering and delectable palates full of taste, with palettes, paint brushes and color with nature they paint. She blessed the food they ate, the grace before meals. Bless us, O Lord, of the valley, mountains and fields, of the church mice, badgers, toads, molehills and bunny holes, and field mice burrows, scurrying feet like pitter-patter of raindrops, and these thy precious gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty, through Christ our Lord. Amen. Before we begin our pilgrim journey through whispering willow woods, hood, needles and nud, good wood, bud, bud, lud, lud, loon, sud, sun and sud. stood the dinner bell golden fairy in the forest dell's heart, to ring her bells of glory, golden and gorge o'er river and lodge.
Mrs. Badger went on to explain.
Still the story of the bell lady was not over yet. One day, the porcelain dinner bell fairy, so golden and strong, her china glass broke to smithereens, alas. No bell could be heard, no music could be stirred in the magic woods deep yonder. Even the birds and the buzzing bees, the animals, goblins, and the pixies tried to gather for dinner, but had lost spell of the time that the bell fairy did remind. And now all creatures sullen, crestfallen, glum, and morose, waited for the blanket of snow to cover the hazy hills and sturdy mountains, the green orchards and grassy glens. The flowers were hidden now by the carpet of fresh fallen snowflakes. The silver moon shone in the grey sky, full of moonlight, and the stars, as if they melted with huge glistening tears, looked like teardrop icicles of the starlight fairies. Yonder the black night. However, soon came a Santa sleigh, with his reindeers so many and gay. They leapt and bound and reached the ground where the smithereens of the bell fairy lay. Soon rhymed a spell, dear Santa, and said to all the bits and pieces of the china clay, wake up, dear. It's dinner time, and time to ring the bell under the skirt you once played, the music that called all to the table of grass and the clear river banks with crystal water drops in shiny glass goblets a share. A toast to cheer, luck, and more lady luck. She arose, and the bits and pieces were joined back together into a new bell doll, fairy of the midnight lantern. Here she stands in the silent night, ringing her bell, ding dong, like a fairy tinker bell. Ding, the king has come. Dong, we adore the fairy who sings his praises aloft. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, we traverse so far to hear ding-dong her tinker-bell song, a ling with a lovely mandolin and harp. Ding, taverns, lighthouse, and towers. Dong, are you sleeping, Brother John and Sister May? Ding-dong, ding, bells, ding-a-ling. Ding, here comes December, and the time to feast at last. A ling to call creatures Mother Nature to her dinner table once again. The table of grass along river banks clear as crystal, or shiny glass goblets a share, now lit with candlelight and a rich transparent porcelains. The story of the dinner bell fairy, of gold and light. Ding-a-ling, a ling-ding-dong, her bells jubilantly extolled, of humanity, its fairy tale creatures, and humankind.
All clapped and marveled at her beautiful poetry. Taking a bow before her audience, she rang the dinner bell mouse again and invited two brothers, Hedgehog Little and Hedgehog Great, a well-mannered toad and a kindly old weasel, all of them, so to say, lost wayfarers of the deep woods, who strangely found help and were welcomed by the kind Mr. Badger and Mrs. Badger into their warm and cozy hearth, a safe haven for all lost and weary. Each explained with thorough deliberation, perplexities and oddities they faced above the sometimes cruel upper world of the woodland and their jinxed rules for survival of fittest. After an exchange of tidbits and good gossiping, Mrs. Badger came up with some half-boiled eggs in egg cups, cheese omelette in her frying skillet. Warm beef stew soon followed in a big curry cauldron, along with toasted breads and baker's bran pav. She then brought out porcelain plates with separate large bowls, silver spoons, silver forks, a sharp knife to cut the bran paws, and a serving ladle for the stew, all fitted inside her large apron pockets, which she neatly arranged along the long dining table, and served delicious meal into the bowls and plates for everybody, not forgetting her salt and pepper shakers and her little mustard pot, a must with any dish, she believed, like a sprinkle of paprika, Tabasco and onions along with it. A bit of wisdom tongue-in-cheek, she would often cherish her husband's guests as her own family and friends. A tasty bite for the hungry and a mug of warm saffron milk for the thirsty voyagers far away from Mr. Toadie's rich mansion to the wooded primitive life once again. Though it soon turned frosty as the temperature within had turned freezing, I guess. Snow had covered the deep woods with its sugar-coated blanket, as Humbug Frosty the Snowman encircled his shuddery breath around the nippy air, making funny patterns of icicle shapes around the upper opening of the hidden hole. No more would Mrs. Badger have to worry about using her broomstick to brush the fallen leaves or boughs, dead leaves and branches, from the door-post of her comfortable hole end. Now Mr. Ratty, Mr. Maury, along with Mr. Badger and the rest would have to help shovel snow off the entrance, so that anybody in dire need of assistance could read the doorpost and ring the doorbell promptly to avoid any turbulence and further upheavals of the gross weather above their cozy hearth. The next joyous day, early in the morning, a whiff of baked strawberry cake wafted through the chilly air, and Mrs. Badger offered nice and big wedges, after which a bowl of cereal and oats followed, with a cup of hot piping cocoa milk to rest jaunty guests of the strange and happy Badger household.
I think I've lost my way to my precious home,
cried Mr. Molly to Mr. Badger and Mr. Walter Ratty, reminiscing fondly about his dear house in a deep hole he missed so much, sighed sorrowfully again and again with deep furrows on his forehead. Every time he explained so very unhappily.
"Oh, I'm so lost, oh so very lost. I want to see my home again. The sweet home, sweet bread, so unforgettable. And the smell of fresh paint, my foiled attempts at spring cleaning and whitewashing that still has to be finished. All because we decided to rat and roll the dice over to Mr. Toadie's hole. And now my little home has disappeared. Oh, I'm so lost. Oh, so very lost."
After he had finished wallowing in self-pity for quite some time,
Poor Mr. Morley.
Mr. Walter Ratty and Mr. Badger sighed and contemplated how they would help him reach the mole end of his happy story. Mr. Badger said to his dear friend,
Don't worry, dear old chum. We shall help you find the exact spot. Now, would we all not want to taste some delicious home-baked muffins? You always talked about you love baking them on cold and snowy days like this.
After which Mr. Walter Ratty continued to say,
Now, we shouldn't debate much, as it is we already have forgotten about Mr. Toadie, and I wonder what he is up to now, after we promised him to keep him company, till he could keep off his crazy passion, irresistible rat-racing toad desires of race driving through the open roads. I guess he hasn't changed a bit, but now I guess Mr. Molly is getting a bit depressed, far away from his cozy mole end. I guess we should first and foremost definitely begin the day helping him to finally cap the doll's demon, home sweet home, by camping finally the last straw at his mole end. This is as soon as we can find it.
That roused in all the three friends as well as poor sad old mole, a burning spirit of adventurous riot once more to find his begging hole of a home destination. Then Mr. Badger, bidding his wife a tearful farewell, Mrs. Badger, along with the well-mannered Toad, kindly old Weasel, and Hedgehog Jr. and Sr., started weaving.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Back at them, in their squeaky soft voices. Soon Mr. Water Ratty, Mr. Molly, and Mr. Badger most joyously began climbing up the hidden tunnel up Badger Hole to uppity the earth's crust, where at the topmost turret of the door hatch above was good old Otter standing near the door opening of the entrance, begging to see if all was well with his friends. Just a next-door friendly neighbor door-to-door visit, their hole-to-hole end. He often loved doing so and hoped to be of help to anyone in trouble, unwaveringly waiting to be of assistance. He had learned from the fairy folk critters of the Whispering Willows about the strange case of Mr. Molly's disappearance, and by strange coincidence or by telepathy knew of his whereabouts right down in Mr. Badger's hole end. Whatever you may call it, maybe ESP, extrasensory perception indeed. Therefore, had come to enquire from the others what really had happened. But now, seeing the happy expressions and countenances that showed satisfaction after a hearty breakfast and enjoyable dinner the previous night before, smiled at his friends and asked them curiously,
Where are you off to, my dears? Would you want me to aid you with any useful pointers, tips, or directions?
as if he knew through ESP what they really wished, and that was home of dear Mr. Mole's end. Mr. Molly, crying out into sobs of frustration, retorted to the helpful Mr. Otter.
I know the odd ends of rat holes and burrows of rabbit holes, but where, oh dear, has my little mole end disappeared? Would you ever know the way?
Not to say Mrs. Badger had made them wear her best hand knitted sweaters. She was an experienced knitter of sweaters and cardigans and had made 33 of them, kept in her little closet deep in the burrow hole, which she distributed to each before they commenced on their next journey to find Mr. Mole's house, so nice and warm, covered in the best mohair knitted fur. They continued to explore into the wide woods thither with the directions that Mr. Otter provided them. Further, he proudly explained to them,
I know in and out the lanes through this forest, even if I were blindfolded.
Then, with lively animation on his face, a silk black oily coat, full whiskers and facial expressions, he described the famous en route that Mr. Molly often took to his little mole end, which was through the deep sheep farms and the sheep pen in the rustic countryside. That unraveled further end of the deep woods, they, guided by Otter's precise fingers, flippers and tails, decided to walk through the rustic countryside, by the rivers, along the church steeple belfry. It was Christmas once again. They decided they must reach Mr. Molly's house early by noon to taste his Christmas muffins he had baked and left on the trays, with a lot of unfinished spring cleaning business to do. Mr. Molly was desperately waiting to reach his far-sighted place of his cozy mole end, as he clutched to Mr. Badger's walking cane to support the leg he had injured. Soon after a good distance through the woods, they smelled the varnish of paint. Unmistakably, it was none other than Mr. Molly's holy, his home sweet home, its unforgettable breath, and everything he bubbled about like a baby was left just like he described on the deep end of the hole. The paintbrushes, paints, the cookie tray with cookies, and even the oven door left open. The muffins arranged on the little table with lovely poinsettias made of crepe paper. For Mr. Molly was a skilled artist in making bouquet of flowers. He settled on his cushiony sofa with one jute mattress underneath it. Nothing much in his bare room, only a cupboard quickly freshening up and lighting up the furnace to keep them warm. Mr. Water Ratty helped to put the firewood, they had collected on the way, whilst Mr. Badger helped himself to those lovely fudge brownies, and the oven-baked muffins were put to heat up again 350 degrees Fahrenheit, till the smell wafted gingerly above Mr. Molly's little hole into the freezing atmosphere, full of deliciously toasted smoke of muffins that they nibbled into, filled with raisins, cashews, and nuts. Those little neighborhood squirrels had gifted Mr. Molly from their caskets in exchange for his tasty muffins when they were ready. Mr. Molly was a kind and generous soul, and always gave his friends his mother's delicious recipes, and they obliged him with maybe a few precious ingredients: flour, sugar, eggs, raisins, and nuts. With friends as these, he was never short of anything at all, and cuddled with a cozy warm blanket, as Mr. Water Ratty prepared them a warm cup of hot coffee over a choir singing carols, its lingering music carried by the wind and breeze, blowing above the mole and hole, the master gerbil, a bunch of field church mice singing at the end of the Myrie, with their bright lit lanterns, mufflers, woolly cardigans, and warm mittens. Christmas Yuletide song, the first Noel.
The first Noel, the angels on their harps and the shepherds on the fields all looked above the shiny star that travelled way afar. The three kings of the east, Caspar, Melchior, and Balthasar, wise men of the Star of Magi in Bethlehem. Then Mary Joseph looked at the sky, with angels singing lowly by, the cradle of the hay stable underneath the head of the Lord. He was rolled in a simple cloth, right from his head to his chin, even his body and legs. They were bare, only wound delicately in linen. He raised his hands from his swaddled cloth, and said, the Master Lord Baby, to all who loved the King, the first Noel and the star shall guide you through eternity. When Master and his people, no longer slaves to darkness and evil, obey and watch the bright Christmas star sail merrily in the sky like a bauble of a Christmas tree, beyond the blue river so serene, a solace for all seeking love, peace, and joy. The first Noel, the angels did sing.
So the trio climbed up the mole's end to hear them sing. They even heard the chink in their little bowls as the passerby dropped a few cents for the busy carol singers. The choir singers were creatures like porcupines, toads, rats, gerbilees, and weasels. The other fairy critters, church mices, who joined in, coming out of the nearby church, were waiting to be generous in the spirit of Christmas Day, just to prove to the world, pen against sword, brains against brute, and love against hatred. The true Christian faith rekindled with church mice and gerbil masters of the church. Mr. Toady in a soup. Making good his escape through the open window of his room, Mr. Toady set out straight his mind to make good another careless wind-blown trip to the open inviting wooded lanes of wild woods again. After his friends had tried hard to keep him locked behind doors inside his mansion room, as much could be described about Mr. Toady's gregarious and pompous personality, loving to host lavish balls, dinner, and tea parties, inviting several of his many famous upper-crust society barons, baronesses, counts and countesses, stoats, weasels, ferrets, beavers, hares, and distinguished mices. Not to mention Mr. Toad was more or less a clothes horse, He selected from his vast closet room his brand new ruby red goggles and matching cap, gaiters, and enormous overcoat, breeches, and red boots, then straddling like a war horse to paint the town red, swaggering down the steps like a royal toad king Maharaja, before he mounted inside his brand new buggy, classic Chevrolet Impala motorcar. Drawing on his gauntleted gloves, he was set to race the open road by the moors and fields once again. Just in time arrived the trio, Mr. Badger, Mr. Molly, and Mr. Water Ratty, to much alarm of the high-spirited creature, now looking aghast like something the cat dragged in, agitated, limp, and sore over the fact his actions of defiance would be dealt with severity. Upon seeing strong, unbending resolution of his friends' faces to stop him dead in his tracks before he could complete his half-baked mission, annoyed by the interference of his 3 buddy mates, he quickened the pace of his steps towards the red Chevrolet Impala buggy, hoping to race away an intense impulse, one frenzied feverish fervor to race wild wooded fruits, frames, rivers, and frallies in Les boys of French alphabet. F. Fun in jest, meaning woods, lanes, rivers, and valleys on a frightful phrase, fray fracas and rucus race jalopy. Funny bag of nerves, jitters, and reflexes. However, Mr. Badger got into his car before Mr. Toady tried racing off and breaking all rules. Mr. Badger got hold of the steer wheel and swerved the car right into the garage and locked the doors with the help of the housemaid, shut away the garage and hid the keys somewhere safe in a secret vault, where Mr. Toady could never find. Then turning towards Toady, the 3 friends confronted him, challenging him to stop this nonsensical business at once, or else he would be locked behind his bedroom doors, explaining him the seriousness of the matters that landed him in the same jigmaroles or rigmaroles he so often sadly faced, strident-toned police officers, cloyingly tasting medicines and grim nursemaids, even knocking over somebody in his rash adventures. They had to take these stringent measures and lock him up in a high room to guarantee his safety measures, like a goofy prince or a Princess Rapunzel up a tall fortress. As soon as the door was locked, peeping through the keyhole, he began defending himself, hoping somebody would hear his lamentations.
I only wanted to broom away on my red Chevrolet Impala, away into the whirling mists of the wayward countryside. Among the mystery vales and hidden dales, be a sport, someone opened the doors. Please let me out. Broom, broom, broom. Bob, bob, blob, bebob, bob, bobbin, bob.
As if after advising the impertinent fool who looked almost as if he would listen to them even after repeatedly persuading him to stop his bohemian lifestyle and squandering away the wealth of his great-great-great-grand-uncle Mr. Juliana Little Toad on his trendy, expensive tastes, clothes horse obsession, and car-driving fads, gallivanting rascally on his absurd car racing ambitions, spiraling into ignominy and curses of his fellow creatures. Toady, not paying heed to any reason, continued on and on, ranting and raving inside the 4 corners of his large mansion room about his missed opportunity to rat race with his classic red hound-bound Chevrolet Impala motorcar. His cries went on deaf ears, and since the door remained shut, behaving skittishly like a cat on hot bricks who couldn't be pinned down, he started to pantomime the car's steer wheel, brakes, accelerator, and clutch. His obvious fantasy to hijack or carjack and zoom away into oblivion. He would remain there locked up the tall tower room, decided his wise friends, till he came to his senses. Each one of his friends made arrangements to bring him food and refreshments every day into his secret chamber. till his revolts, insults and abhorrences would come to a gradual halt. Then Mr. Toady, over 2 days of strict vigilance, took to promising them he would never take the car out on his road rage excursions, but rather they help him to sort out varnish, paint and repair the anchor hooks and helms of his sailboat contraptions. This they agreed and arrived at a truce, terms of the condition that they put forth to stubborn Mr. Toady, that hence he would not dabble in anything that rolled on wheels, even for that matter a bicycle or unicycle. For now, it would only be oars and sails, surf and turf the tides brought in of the Soda Inlet Bay. Like a steaming guardian angels, they watched day by day his every move and breath, till one day Mr. Toady decided he was tired of fishing and sailing and wished to move into town. Walking and strolling naturally, this they allowed without his wheels, not knowing the soup Mr. Toad would land himself in as soon as Mr. Toad reached the Blue Whale Inn. He resolved to listen to his old buddies like a saint, without a mask of paint, staunchly and stoically abiding by the promise he made to them. But just outside was a temptation he could hardly resist, a brand new red dashing brute of a flashy red Lamborghini, with its doors wide open, even without an owner attending to it. Thoughts raced through his pensive mind.
At last my dream comes true. Hijack a car and car snatch a ride. Racing at top speed, broom, to the pleasant countryside. Watkins and limekins, let's pull my gaiters up and creases above the knees and my cloak to my collar. I'm not wasting a minute.
And broom, the zooming car speed so fast till it reached the maximum speed limits. And soon beside the honking car arrived a policeman on his motorbike, telling mad Mr. Toady to stop the car heist, shouting at the top of his lungs.
Hey, mister! Stop, I say, at once! You'll be fined for sure for such bad behavior!
Mr. Toady, with a rush of adrenaline bursting into spurts of green blood through his blue-blooded veins, throbbing as fat slugs on his forehead, he was stopping for no fool and went racing ahead, speeding intolerantly, explaining like a goon gobbled inook of a crook.
Never, not now, and not ever, even for a well-behaved officer hoodlum Mr. Toad.
Speeding another fast couple of kilometers, as fast as gauntlets could race, the steer wheel, which was kept away from him hidden for so many days, almost a year now. He raced through the valleys and lanes, woods, past rivers and mountains, down creeks and fountains, in a hex versus rex, evil spells versus unforeseen lawsuits that it would ultimately result in. The car going absurdly haywire in circles, and at last, without even a hopeless bit of remorse over his foolish actions, a hoist by one's own petard. The whole squad of force of police toads were behind poor Mr. Toady. At last, his car, I reckon, stopped by the tracks of the chugging steam engine, smoke and dust escaping through the bubbling hot car's engine, hot as smoldering red-hot picket wires. And soon he got off to be handcuffed in chains by the terrible police officer, Mr. Stout, and Hound Baskerville, Sergeant of Police. Despite of many efforts of his good friends to keep him out of the court and prison, now he was summoned the very next day, and today it was inside a cell where he had to sleep the night till his friends would appear at court for the hearing by the owl of a judge, who would read out the final decision and full verdict over such an unruly behavior, terror of the highway. His fine panoply soon evaporated, with a cross-sullen expression on his sagging face, each muscle loosely hung in exasperation over the sentence to be rolled out by the owlet judges and stork, pelicans, herons, quails, and flamingos, members of the trusted jury. He giggled feebly from one to another, appealingly, seeming quite to understand the seriousness of the matter. The judge, after hearing the jury and the convict, came to a conclusion whilst his faithful buddies wrapped with whatever decision would be announced, come what may, or regrettable consequences of his foolhardy choices, felt sorry for their dear chum Mr. Toad. The judge declared, pounding his hammer of justice and measuring salts in his weighing scales of injustice for poor Mr. Toady.
To wit, to hoots, to whosoever it may concern, this is concerning Mr. Toad of Dooleana Toad Mansion, of course. Guilty as charged, guilty, 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 for being insolent and committing incredulous a crime as refusing to accept what we call crime of guilty pleasures and hiding them away from the prying eyes of judgment, like a secret, clandestine love affair called mad over donuts, wheels of cars, wheels indeed, snatched off a race car, for being impertinent with a police officer, for breaking limits of speed beyond negligence or level-headedness, for hijacking the car, 12 months of rigorous imprisonment for Mr. Toady, and such as all his insurmountable aggravated offences, to wit, to hoot.
Whilst typed and pounded away rat-a-tat-a-tat, the case of terror of the highway as speechless Mr. Toad, the legal secretary of court, on her typewriter, what she put in words a court verdict of typed sentences, a midget mole of a specimen, she was as big as the bump of a wart. Those paraded glances behind Mr. Toady's expressionless face, who, feeling very sorry for himself, sat in a motionless stupor of pin-drop silence, sadly hanging his head down guiltily, being admonished by the high hand of law. He learned his inevitable sad lesson. Mr. Morley, Mr. Water Ratty, and Mr. Badger reminisce the poor story of the soldier field mouse in love with a belle, who after war finished was captured by a Barbary corsair and made to row in the galley, and when he escaped and returned home, his belle lady love mouse, Sundari Chachundari, pretty Asian house shrew, had gone to a convent to become a nun. This they very much applied to Soul One, Mr. Toady, who had an exaggerated account of his racing adventures and blind love for driving cars and wheels of every sizes and types, even at the expense of losing his lady love Dotty over his car racing sentences and court verdicts, who still waited for him patiently, though not in a convent, but in her well-protected fortress, known by all to be the wealthy daughter of the Baron and Baroness Toads, the Grimwalds. Toad's Dotty Grimwald would have to wait, if not a century, but for a year, to await a changed Mr. Toady.
A Mr. Toady in a soup bowl? In a toad soup indeed!
They grimaced to each another. Mr. Toad in a hot soup bowl, looking tongue-tied and speechless. In a comical sort of way, the gaoler, a large-sized wild ferret, or the prison warden, marched him up to the barred, barricaded, and gridded tiny prison room. In the meantime, in the woods, the sandpipers whistle. Mr. Morley was waiting for Mr. Water Ratty to arrive at his mole end. He had promised to assist him with baking a fresh tray of Nankatais, snow button biscuits, and to roll out a few marzipans and kulkuls for the Christmas festivities, though couldn't keep his mind off the sad outcome of Mr. Toady's rash infatuation of race-driving cars and irresistible temptation of carjacking that led to his imprisonment. Tut-tut, tut-tutting to himself like a king tut-tut, all the time muttering,
"Oh, I guess now the cold mansion of Mr. Toady's will be totally abandoned, cold and cheerless. We should all arrive at a conclusion to safeguard the place before it surmises to further complications by those conniving vixens and foxes loitering around its bend hoping to capture it like a bunch of hooligans, expecting to make a prey out of a beast's well-laid-out scheming plan.
Just then, Mr. Water Ratty knocked on the door above the mole hole, and soon Mr. Molly scurried on his nimble feet upwards to open the door latch and let Mr. Water Ratty inside. He had just finished the batter of the biscuits and now had kneaded the dough and brought out long combs to shape the kulkulos and rat, mole, badger, frog, funny fairy animal molds for marzipans.
What took you so long?
Mr. Molly said to Mr. Water Ratty. Mr. Water Ratty, after a soul-searching moment, feeling very sorry for his dear friend, Mr. Otter, addressed his dear chum, Mr. Molly.
Oh dear Molly, Mr. Otter insisted that I have dinner before I left. And such as the sorry situation demanded, I had to keep him company, for the old fellow was worried about his young son Tommy. He disappeared from home, not ever showing signs of returning home any time. Soon over the last couple of days, now it seems to be over a good many fortnights since his absence, and Mr. Otter is sick with worry.
Oh dear,
Mr. Molly exclaimed in surprise, then added,
Tommy had always the spirit of adventure and sometimes took a day or two to come back home. Do you think he will be soon back home again after his long adventures?
Mr. Water Ratty, shaking his downtrodden head, solemnly said,
Now if we try to put pieces of his train together and come out with a solution to find the chap, maybe take out our scullboat and oars to the spot of the backwaters. He usually loved to go there, amidst its vast surrounding flowers and perfumes, and dip his head into the fresh clear waters that one could see even their tails and flippers into its clear reflection, crystal transparent waters. I think we should at once scull our way to its destination.
Mr. Molly fully agreed and decided the Christmas sweet preparation could wait till the next morning. But now, the chill of the terror night, of losing poor Tommy in the dark livid backwaters, and the overwhelming worry what he may face, and where may he be stranded, robbed color from cherry faces of two mates. They dressed in their breeches and warm woolly gears, carrying their pistols and a few handy tools like knives and hammers, ropes and hooks, mustering up pluck took on the cudgels to save young Tommy, and summed up in one word the brave venture as a Christmas spirit of Tommy. Summoning the ghosts of the backwaters, they set out on a search to find Mr. Otter's son. As they reached the Soda Inlet bayside and settled inside with sculls into their boat, they listened rapt to the scurrying feet on sandy banks, sound of the sandpipers and the beautiful pipes. A contradiction of them took off in the dark, foreboding sky, towards, I guess, the backwaters, piping their merry flutes into the still chasm of the scented surrounding of nature's own green thumb. Orchid trees, crab apple, wild cherry and sloe, whilst the large red moon from under the horizon was pulled as if by invisible strings like a ghost puppet moon-faced mannequin, marionette fairy cloak mannequin, looming over the entire seascape as a picturesque blob of immense blood-clot harlequin face. They started sailing, singing the Lord's song, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya, oh Lord kumbaya. Someone singing Lord kumbaya, someone singing Lord kumbaya, someone singing Lord kumbaya, oh Lord kumbaya. Someone's crying Lord kumbaya, someone's crying Lord kumbaya, someone's crying Lord kumbaya, oh Lord kumbaya. Someone's praying Lord kumbaya, someone's praying Lord kumbaya, someone's praying Lord kumbaya, oh Lord kumbaya. O Lord Kumbaya, O Lord Kumbaya, O Lord Kumbaya, O Lord Kumbaya. In moments of harmony and unity, unanimously in agreement, O Lord Kumbaya, alongst their blessed sculling journey, hoping their prayers would soon be answered. Whilst watching the Harlequin moon pantomime, her fingers over her mouth like a flute play over Thunderbird of skies grey, black, ginger and beige with a persimmon undertone, saturating the sky with a fresh coat of paint, full of silvery grey and black sandpipers. Also them peering at the silent tiny hamlet beside the edges of the shore side, and the busy call of mating by some creatures of sky. Surf and turf just brought about a sad soul searching, note for Mr. Molly and Mr. Water Ratty, trying to make sense out of the disturbing news that recently filled their hearts. Like the sad melancholy melody of whistles and coos, the soothing Kumbaya prays to King, and the Pied Piper's flute. Suddenly they saw the magic sandpipers. As they disappeared, reappeared again, just encircling above their heads and playing music beautifully, as if they were trying to tell them a secret. The backwaters were soon visible and the place was filled with beautiful scent of an amazing field of nameless flowers. Some of them they recognized were sansevieria, roses, tulips, hyacinths, dahlias and buttercups. As if relayed out of a dream, what they would now witness would shock them out their senses and bring out the true soul-worthy gift of forgetfulness of misery and woe, and gratitude to a demigod who wished to help them on their good search and come out with a fruitful outcome, because they dared to try to help poor old Mr. Otter, keeping it concealed till the special hour should come, and with the hour, those who were called and chosen like the 8 beatitudes by Jesus, their selfless duty to be saviors and to be saved, embarking again and crossing over, they worked their way up the waters to a silent, silvery, shivery forest, in a silver kingdom surrounded by hedges, hollow trees, and runnels, and the little culverts, the ditches and dry waterways. In silence, they landed and pushed ahead through the scented herbage and underground that led up to level ground, till they moved their scull-boat and ventured out into the silvery phosphorescence towards the flowery margin of the island. The backwater's banks filled quietly, its surface above with twirling eddies and floating, foaming streaks, deadened all other sounds, with its soothing rumble and circling clashes of spurts, breaking into gnashes of sea splinters, churning, hissing, and chasing one after the other big, bold, wavy currents that splashed and oozed instantly and gushed out spontaneously, with another on the way like incessantly babbles or gossips. Fairy folk monotonously chuntered and chunnered, the waves like snails uncoiling and emerging again, their shells or tortoises into their carapaces that propelled forward the boats and waves in a rabbit tortoise race. The small island lay anchored, fringed closely by a peripheral amphitheatre filled with whispering willows and murmuring silver birches and alder, reserved and shy like pretty puppets filled with secrets, like the game of Chinese whispers. Both friends felt a deep consciousness that they were finally nearing the end. The sandpipers with their gay whistles had vanished again, and soon when they started to plod through the island, they saw them circle over a strange sight. They marveled to behold. They saw a demigod. Truly, no words could describe such an unearthly creature as this. It had a stag face and looked so human or godlike, with a supple, large, behemoth body and hooves that could gallivant Santa on a sleigh all by himself. Was in no other way a normal reindeer, but an enormous, gigantic one, and soon leaped and bounded, and then strangely stood still, a paean describing nature's lulling light display, Aurora Borealis, appeared like an aureole of luminous jumbling streaks and shades of iridescent glow, of beautiful rainbow colors, a splendid verdure, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Just above the halo of the paprika sundown gigantic reindeer, it was truly spectacular and rarest appearance of a vibrant fairy dawn of truth and light. Over ignorance and darkness in the tinged, painted skies, the sandpiper's whistle returned. Once more its melody filled the miraculous atmosphere. High above the place where the stag bounded atop a craggy cliff was beckoning them to it with a sweet flute call of sandpipers. They strode through the grass ferns and tall blades and curious amalgam of scented flower beds, weeds and thistles, gaining speed and momentum over its rocky terrain. Ratty and Molly quickly made way farther ahead to reach the rock face of the heavenly staghorn's hoofs crowned. They recalled how much Mr. Otter loved his son Tommy and was so proud of the fact that he had taught him how to swim and experienced the joy of catching his first few fishes. Now they were coming to the final verdict by the demigod of Santa Claus, a gift they would cherish forever. For the enduring beatitudes of Christ's kingdom, Mr. Molly, Mr. Watto Ratty, and their friends compassing their joyous end only through faith. A Christmas present for Tommy, a gift of hope, love, and joy that they would spread till it brought a smile upon the sad otter's face once more, rejuvenated with the spirit of love. This Christmas season they would always remember, and from far soon they saw a pudgy figure of a small young otter crouching fearfully yet happily to see the friends of his father and joyously flapping his way to their direction. They wrapped their arms lovingly around the mischievous one, and the glow on their cheeks could never be forgotten. The demigod soon vanished, as if it flapped his wings and flew, riding a Santa sleigh that was invisible to naked eye, to reveal its wisdom to humanity, that its fairy folk bore witness to the call of the wildwood and whispering willows by the Soda Bay Inlet riverside chasm. Then Watto Ratty, Molly, along with dear Tommy, returned to their scull boats that shone white and blue in the silvery phosphorescence. They quickly steadied their oars and sailed back to Mr. Mole's end, hoping the next day to surprise their dear old friend Mr. Otter's family with the hope of resurrection, wiping tears from his sodden, moist black eyes, to shed light in the dark, quelling all doubts and queries, their strange adventure, Tommy's whereabouts, and their holy encounter with the mammoth-winged Santa sleigh Rodolph Antelope.
This concludes part 2 of The Whispering Willows. The journey will carry on in part 3.